Have you ever played a claw machine? Have you ever bought in one of those cute anime blind boxes? Oh, have you ever opened a magic pack? Well, just like those magic packs we've all opened, Commander is the highest variance format in all of Magic the Gathering. My problem with it is the best decks are the most consistent most of the time, often being just a giant soup of tutors and then like two things at once. And in lower brackets, nothing is a bigger culprit of this than Reanimator. Entomb, Unmarked Grave, Buried Alive, Lively Dirge, Gamble. As you use these every single game in a deck, you realize there's almost always just one creature you want, one target, and then the Reanimator deck just plays the same almost every game.
Boring.
Good news is if you've been on this channel, you see that I already fixed Landfall by reversing it. So now it's time that I fix Reanimator. It's time we made this demon of reanimation blind. Introducing the Blind Demon, the first Reanimator deck that you don't know what you're reanimating until you cast the spell. That's right, you are going to cast a reanimation spell and not know what you reanimate until it fully resolves. I made this deck because I love the demon art in Magic the Gathering. It is insanely awesome. But as I said in the intro, it all plays the same. I scoured the internet for Reanimator and demon decks, and of course I found one of the three categories. It was either a bunch of Shadowborn Apostles, Reanimator decks always trying to go get Razaketh, or just a Demon Kindred deck where it was just basically a bad version of the Ur Dragon. Look, I literally built all three, and I tried to make all three of these things unique until I realized I was starting in the wrong place. None of these were the basis. So after around 30 hours of log deck building time, I present to you the Blind Demon. The commander is Garland, Knight of Cornelia. Garland says whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we get to surveil one. That means we can consistently cast really cool spells, interaction spells, and fill our graveyard full of reanimation targets. Which, by the way, of the 30 creatures in the deck, 23 of which are demons, baby. We have 17 ways to reanimate said demons, and I've even included a bracket 3 version in this list. That bracket 3 version has a combo so diabolical, it requires 4 demons, a minion, and a 3 pit black spell, which we'll get into later. It's an insane combo. I won't titillate you any longer. This is how the deck works. You will cast a reanimation spell that does not target. It will trigger Garland, and with an average of 90 cards left in your deck by turn 3 when you're trying to do this, you will have a roughly 40% chance of hitting a reanimation target from the surveil trigger on Garland. The good thing is you might have already cast a Lotus Petal, a Soul Ring, a Talisman, anything else to have triggered Garland and know what you're getting. But if there's nothing in your graveyard yet, cast the reanimation spell, trigger Garland, mill a demon, money baby. That is just one of the few ways we are going to be abusing the surveil triggers from Garland. And what's fun is it's always great to have a commander deck that your commander always comes out on turn 2, instantly being a part of your game plan. And if Garland dies, he himself can reanimate himself and comes back as a demon. Welcome to DefCat MTG, where I make you the best decks. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to pilot this deck as well as if you were the one who created it. We ain't one of those boring channels that just shows off a deck list. And if you want to get a specially made deck with your idea, hire me on Patreon. And this month, I'm doing limited time sale and giveaway. Try to get one of our new shirts, baby. Boom! I hired Michael, one of the artists in the 2024 Dungeons & Dragons Handbook, to make these. So join the Discord and get yourself a custom deck. Come on. To make sure you can pilot it, I'm going to teach you 4 things. Opening hands, what you should do by turn 3 or 4, combos, and how to win. Opening hands. In your opening hand, you need a minimum of 2 lands. Often, 2 is all you want. After that, you want at least 1 to 2 spells that can trigger Garland. That means a Soul Ring, Jet Medallion, anything like that. The last thing you need is at least 1 Reanimator spell. With these pieces, you're going to be easily churning through your deck, surveilling, and getting something in your graveyard that you want to reanimate eventually. And then like we said, let's say you genuinely had to go down to 4 to find this. With 2 lands, something to trigger Garland, and 1 reanimation spell, you're still giving yourself a guaranteed 2 shots at a 40% chance to reanimate Valgavoth and any other demon in the deck. So what I hope to be doing by turn 3, and what you can normally find in a good hand, is on turn 1, play a land. On turn 2, I play another land and cast my commander. And on turn 3, I'm casting Dark Ritual. I'm casting Rite of Flame. I'm casting Jet Medallion, Soul Ring, Lotus Petal, whatever. Surveilling a bunch of stuff into my graveyard. And then once I see something I like, or if I run out of gas, I slam that reanimation spell. Out of the 10 games I've tested this so far, 9 out of the 10 games, I was able to land something to reanimate by turn 3 every game.
They've done studies, you know.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
The 1 out of 10 game was one of the few times I genuinely mulliganed to 4 to find this hand, and I whiffed. The funny part is that was one of the games I won the quickest, because I cast another reanimation spell immediately on turn 4 and reanimated Villas. So, combos in this deck. If you're not familiar with demons in Magic the Gathering, there are an insane amount of combos. So we'll run through the actual game-winning combos when I talk about winning the game. For now, I want to talk to you about value. One of my favorite intricacies of the deck is being able to have Dragon's Rage Channeler and Garland out. That means we surveil twice every non-creature spell. Dragon's Rage Channel is my favorite turn 1 play in this deck, and I quickly churn through once I have it. It's amazing. After that, if there's a specific demon I want out of the deck, I cast Scheming Symmetry. This puts the card I want on the top of my library, and then I can easily surveil it away with my commander. But how do you win in this deck? I have 3 ways to win in this deck that I enjoyed the most. In the Bracket 2 version and in the Bracket 3 version, the first 2 apply. First, I love flooding the board with tons of demons to where I have tons of black pips available. Then, I will cast Gray Merchant. Gray Merchant will drain the life of all my opponents for every devotion to black I have, sometimes getting as big as 20. I will then gain 60 life because I gain as much as my opponents lose. I will then use creatures like Villas to kill my own Gary and then reanimate him myself, winning the game. My second favorite way in the Bracket 2 version is using Doom Whisper. It allows me to pay 2 life to surveil 2. This allows me to throw so many demons into my graveyard. I mean, just a dump truck. And then I just start slamming reanimation spells, and I try to find Bloodletter of Azcanta or Direfleet, any of the ones that boost damage. What these normally say is something like everyone loses a third of their life rounded up, and then Bloodletter will double that. And then I'll normally just swing out from there. Now it's time to tell you about the horrid version I put in the Bracket 3. This combo is, quite frankly, disturbingly cool. I think it is probably one of the most interesting combos I've ever made in Magic the Gathering. It's so cinematic. Let's go through it. Cast Doomsday. Doomsday says for 3 black, sorcery speed, find 5 cards in your graveyard and library. Exile the rest and make that your library. You lose half your life, round it up. And then with Garland on my battlefield, I will cast a reanimation spell that doesn't target, and I'll reanimate Demon Lord Belzenlock. Demon Lord Belzenlock will enter the battlefield, and then it'll tell me to reveal the top card of my library. And if that card's mana value is 4 or greater, I continue to reveal cards and put them into my hand and losing 1 life every time. The 4 cards that Demon Lord Belzenlock are going to put into my hand after I've casted Doomsday are Kyrix, Son of Yawgmoth, Doomsday Extractor, Bloodletter of Azcanta, and Gray Merchant. I'll be able to cast all the black picks in Doomsday using Kyrix's ability, cast Bloodletter for 1 colorless, and then Gray Merchant. Gray Merchant will then see all the black pips on my board, deal an insane amount of damage to my opponents, gaining me an insane amount of life, and then that'll be doubled by Bloodletter. I pulled this off on turn 6. I made 11 black mana using Cabal Ritual plus the mana I already had available to me, and ended the game at 2 life before I casted my Gray Merchant to win the game. It's an epic ending. It's fun in Bracket 3. It's not overly broken. It's hard enough to pull off that it's not boring. I love it. So like I said, this deck does have a lot of intricacies. So let me show you how to play the Bracket 2 list, and then I'll talk to you about what we upgrade into Bracket 3 if you like the more powerful version. Let's get started with the Blind Demon. First off, we have Blood Pet. I think the 7th edition foil of Blood Pet is one of the most gorgeous cards in all of Magic the Gathering. It also allows us to sacrifice it for black later when we need more black pips, and it being a thrall matters. Dragon's Rage Channeler. This special edition art is so nasty, it makes this deck look so cool, and yes, I have fully built this deck in foil thanks to you guys. I can't wait to see it at MagicCon Atlanta to play this. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1, just like our commander. This generates an insane amount of value for us to constantly put things in our graveyard so we can reanimate, and on top of that, it acts as an awesome attacker. Because once there are 4 more card types in a graveyard, it gets +2/+2 flying and attacks every combat if able. And trust me, you should be swinging in this deck. Skirk Prospector, also one of the coolest foils in Magic: The Gathering. Skirk Prospector is just like Blood Pet and allowing us to generate mana for later, and it's a great turn 1 play. This deck doesn't have a ton of turn 1 plays, so having this is awesome. Bloodletter of Azcanta. As you may be able to tell, we just jumped from 1 CMC to 4 CMC. The reason we did that is because Garland is always going to be our turn 2 play. And on turn 3, we always want to be activating him. So I thought having any creature at that 3 CMC just didn't make sense. Plus, now when we cast Demon Lord Belzenlock, we're always going to hit 4 CMC creatures to keep flipping. Well, unless we hit something we don't want to in between. But it ups our chance significantly. Anyway, Bloodletter of Azcanta says, I just realized it's not Azcanta, it's Alazaxa. It's some, look, I'm dyslexic, this just ain't happening. It says if an opponent would lose life this turn, they lose twice as much instead. This combo is insanely heavy with Grey Merchant, Great Unclean One, Obnixilis the Fallen, Obnixilis Unshackled, any of the cards that make our opponents lose life due to game actions and or when they ETB. Desecration Demon. Desecration Demon says that our opponents can sacrifice a creature to tap them, that way they don't get hit. And if they do, we put a +++ encounter on this. So either it grows and you have a bigger demon for late game, or people keep not sacrificing and you're just swinging in with a 4 mana 6/6 for flying. A 6/6 flying demon for 4 mana. Whew, man, this is kicking my butt today. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Easily one of the best demons in this deck, as well as acts as a secret commander. It says whenever you attack in however much life your opponent lost this turn, your creatures cost that much less to cast. And as a 4 mana 6/6 with flying and trample, trust me, that's gonna happen. Archfiend of Depravity. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, they're gonna have to pick 2 creatures and sacrifice the rest. Demon of Wailing Agonies. Demon of Wailing Agonies honestly has one of the things that I'm shocked we haven't seen more in Commander. This is one of the coolest abilities that I just never see in precons, and I don't understand why. It has an ability called Lieutenant. It says if you control your commander, it gets +2/+2, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they sacrifice a creature. Why don't we see Lieutenant anymore? That's such a sick mechanic. Doom Whisperer. Honestly, one of the coolest cards in all of Magic: The Gathering, and I don't say that lightly. I remember opening this at pre-release when it first came out, and I was just like, I'm making a demon deck. I immediately made a Rakdos demon deck for standard the next week. It was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing back then, but now I do. And it goes in this deck because we can pay 2 life to surveil 2. That means once we have this out, we are guaranteeing that we are always finding something to reanimate. It is awesome. Plus, sometimes we want to surveil reanimation spells like Dread Return, allowing us to sacrifice 3 creatures to reanimate a creature. Next, we have the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, also known as Gary. I don't remember why. We all call it Gary. Hail Gary. Whenever Gary enters the battlefield, every opponent loses X, where X is your devotion to black. And then you gain life equal to the amount of life lost this way. That means if your X equals 7, your opponents all lose 7 life, and you gain 21. That makes cards like Crick, Son of Yawgmoth insanely good, because then you can just continue to pay life for things. That actually makes a lot of cards in this deck really good. Let's keep going. Great Unclean One. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses 2 life. Then, for each opponent that has less life than you, make a 1/3 creature token. Obnixilis the Fallen. A demon with the landfall ability. Didn't see that one coming. It says, whenever landfall, you may have an opponent lose 3 life. And if you do, put 3 +1/+ encounters onto him. That is disturbingly strong. And if you get this out on turn 3, holy cow, you're gonna run away with the game. Burning Rune Demon. You have no idea how funny this card is in this deck. When it enters the battlefield, you get to get 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon from your deck. When you do, target opponent puts 1 in your hand and 1 in your graveyard. I have often got 2 things I want to reanimate so often. It's so much fun. It's like a really bad intuition. Next up, one of the biggest reasons I built this deck in the first place and what made me build that awesome demon deck long ago, Demon Lord Belzenlock. Demon Lord Belzenlock says, exile cards off the top of your library until you hit a non-land card. If the card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, you may lose 1 life and repeat the process and put it into your hand. This allows us to make piles with Doomsday and any other cards, slam Demon Lord Belzenlock, and then put all these awesome demons in our hand. Oftentimes, I've just straight up reanimated Demon Lord Belzenlock, and then I've gotten to draw a ton of awesome demons. Super fun. And it normally ends with a reanimation spell, because that's one of the only few things in this deck that isn't, 4 CMC or greater. Doomsday Extractor. 99.9% of the reason this card is in the library is so we have enough black devotion to kill people with Grey Merchant. I honestly do not recommend casting it otherwise, but it's still hilarious. It's still really fun. It's a big demon. It basically makes everyone exile everything but the bottom 6 cards of their library. The problem with this is you're going to be drawing your deck faster than everyone else because Doomsday Extractor gives you an extra draw. You got to be careful. But if you reanimate it and you technically don't cast it, that will not happen. And now you just have a bunch of devotion and a flying 6/6 demon, which is why it's still in the deck. Hellcarver Demon. To be honest, I put this in the deck because of the art. Look at that cheeky boy. But my favorite reason I put this in the deck because it is also one of the cards that combos with Doomsday. It says whenever it deals damage to a player, exile all permanents, exile and discard your hand, and then exile the top 6 cards of your library, which is different than draw, so you won't draw yourself out and lose. You can then cast everything for free. So if I don't have enough mana to go for the full Bells Unlock line, I'll often put this on the top of my Doomsday pile. And when I do, everyone is scrambling to get rid of it before my next turn, and it is awesome. Infernal Sovereign. It says skip your draw step, but whenever you play a land or cast a spell, you get to draw one and lose 1 life. This is insanely good with our commander. It allows us to constantly surveil and then draw and put those triggers on the stack. So if I cast Dark Ritual, I can look at the top card of my library and say, I would like to choose the surveil trigger first. And then if it's a card I wish I won in my hand, like a Soul Ring, instead of surveilling it, I keep it on top and then I draw it due to Infernal Sovereign. That is always the way you should layer it. Trust me, the more knowledge, the better. Kothafed Soul Hoarder. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls enters the graveyard, you draw a card and lose 1 life. This rewards us for using our interaction, and our opponent's board wipes help us. Lord of the Forsaken. It says we can pay a life to make a colorless to cast things from our graveyard. In the upper bracket versions of this deck that I've made, the reason this is so awesome is because we are going to be playing Yawgmoth's Will. This allows us to pay life to help us pay for the things in our graveyard. So if we have Crick and Lord of the Forsaken, we can just pay life for literally everything. Obnixilis Unshackled. It says whenever our opponents search their libraries, they lose 10 life. One of the funniest things that have happened so far is one of the ways I've killed someone was I reanimated Obnixilis Unshackled at instant speed on top of one of their tutors, killing them. Because I had Bloodletter of Azcanta out and they were at 18 life. Reaper from the Abyss. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, you get to destroy a non-creature demon. Non-demon creature. I mean, the ability is called Morbid. So cool. Abhorrent Overlord. This creature also cares about your devotion to black. It says for as much as your devotion is to black, make that one 1/1 Harpy creature tokens. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice one of them. Crick. Son of Yawgmoth. Something a little special for those of you that haven't played this card before is it says for every black pip in a cost, that can also mean abilities you can pay 2 life instead of paying it. That means cards like Villas, Broker of Blood, are able to be activated by paying 2 life via Crick. Keurig, whichever one you want to say. And then whenever you cast a black spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Keurig, and Keurig does have lifelink, which matters a ton considering how much life you're paying to use this card. Runescar Demon. Big expensive demonic tutor on a stick. Enjoy Archfiend of Despair. Says opponents can't gain life. And at the beginning of each end step, they lose how much they lost that turn again. Which again, with Bloodletter out, oh, so nasty. Hoarding Broodlord, the combo queen, baby. Hoarding Broodlord, when it enters the battlefield, exiles a card from your library under it. It then gains Convoke. That means you can tap your creatures in order to cast it. Often I'll use this to find Doomsday and start my combo, or I can get plenty of other awesome cards. Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded. It says pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, and you get a demonic tutor, baby. Reaver Demon. Reaver Demon is a one-sided board wipe that wipes everything that's non-demon and non-artifact, and they can't be regenerated. See, get that old mechanic out of here. Villas, Broker of Blood. Like we talked about, Villas is an awesome combo piece, because whenever you pay life, you draw that many cards. We have a lot of ways to pay life in this deck, so this makes this one of the powerhouses and easy ways to win. It also allows you to pay life in a black in order to put -1/-1 counters on a creature. That way if we want to kill our own Grey Merchant to reanimate it again, or if we want to get rid of someone else's pesky stacks piece. Valgaboth. Terror Eater. It has ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. Yeah, this thing is not getting targeted, baby. I guess they could just sacrifice treasures or something, they don't care, but you get my point. It's pretty nasty. Effectively, whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard, it gets exiled, and it now becomes a part of Valgavoth's pool of life-paying casting. It says, on your turn, you can pay life in order to cast the spells put into exile from Valgavoth's ability. It's awesome. Sorceries. Bubbling Muck. It allows all of your swamps to attack for 2 black mana for the rest of the turn. Reanimate. Exhume. Persist. Soul Exchange. Stitch Together. Victimize. Blood for Bones. Dread Return. Zombify. And Rise Again. This is our massive collection of awesome reanimation spells, but reanimation spells are not made equal. If you want to do the trick where you surveil and then reanimate, not knowing what's on top, you can't use any of the ones here that say the word target. For example, Zombify says return target creature. Blood for Bones says return a creature. Exhume says return a creature. Just remember that if you want to do the cool trick. But most of the time, we're going to be surveilling a lot in this deck. There'll be something to target, don't worry. Rite of Flame. I included this in the deck because 1, extra mana is awesome, and often we're using the red mana to pay for generic costs, but also it will trigger our commander. We need to surveil. Scheming Symmetry. The fun of this is it allows one of your opponents to also do some scheming. It allows them to put a card on top of their library. I use this in order to put a card on top of my library that I would like to reanimate. In the bracket 3 version of this list, we have things like Imperial Seal, Vampiric Tutor that do the same thing, but in bracket 2, Scheming Symmetry is the best version of this card we have. Instance. Let's start surveilling, but more than that, let's start sacrificing our own demons. Burnt Offering, Culling the Weak, Sacrifice, and Saw in Half. These are ways to sacrifice our creatures to either make mana or make more value. This will put them back in our graveyard and we'll often just reanimate them. And the cool thing is we'll normally net extra mana doing this. Dark Ritual, an awesome way to surveil and make tons of mana. And one of my favorite Hail Mary plays in the deck, Rain of Filth. When I'm going for my big Doomsday line, sometimes I'll put Rain of Filth at the end. That way I can sacrifice all my lands to pay for a ton of the black pips if I don't have enough life to pay through Crypt. Goryo's Vengeance. Another awesome reanimation spell. Shallow Grave. One of my favorite ways to blind in this deck. Shallow Grave, for 2 mana, will trigger our commander and then put the top creature of our graveyard onto the battlefield. And man, blind milling Razaketh into the graveyard and then watching this put it back. Artifacts. I've included Jet Medallion, Bantu's Monument, Herald's Horn, Urza's Incubator, and the Darkness Crystal. All of these effectively make our creatures cheaper and easier to find. These are some of the first things to go out in the bracket 3 list because instead of these, we normally put in the tutors, which again, for people like me, can make the game a little bit more boring, so you might want to just keep these when you power the deck up. Enchantments. Anime Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy. Awesome ways to reanimate in this deck. Which, by the way, if you're running Anime Dead and you want this deck to ball even harder, put in World Gorger Dragon. It's just cool. But the problem is we definitely don't have a way to win with World Gorger Dragon unless we have Grey Merchant on the battlefield already, so it's just a little weird. Heartless Summoning. Your creature spells cost 2 less to cast and enter with an additional -1/-1 counter. Or not, they don't enter with an additional -1/-1. The creatures just have -1/-1. Sorry. Black Market Connections. Pay life to make mana in the form of treasure tokens, draw extra cards, and make extra things to sacrifice. Now, the Blind Demon, the Blind Reanimator deck plays very viscerally. You need to be able to take risks with this thing. Start surveilling constantly. Just because you need a land on top of your library, surveil it. You'll get more triggers later. Don't worry. You got to be aggressive with this list. And I promise you, this will be the most fun you've ever had playing Reanimator. So if you have an awesome deck idea and you think it's good enough to be on this channel, tell me in the comments below. And if it's even that good, order it from me on Patreon. But as we wrap up, I actually have something very interesting to talk about. One of you in the comments realized, hey, I'm Christian and I talk about demons. What's up with that? You said you avoid all demon art in Magic the Gathering. Well, I have a disturbing truth. These demons, all this art, yeah, that's not what the Bible calls a demon. Those are beasts. Demons look like this. Yeah, they're alluring. They want to get you in. They want you to sin. And they're going to do it by appealing to you. No one in their right mind would run toward that. You'd have to be in a pretty desperate situation to make that your god. Me and my pastors regularly get together to play Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, because I'm not glorifying Satan by casting demonic tutor. The point is, we're past the satanic panic, people. But it's awesome that you're worried about glorifying God. But it makes me question, do you guys know what real demons are? A lot of us put things like Magic the Gathering as the most important thing in our life. I don't do that. My wife and my community are the most important things in my life. We don't want to put idols in front of us. Nothing should be more important to us than the people around us. So this past weekend, I helped host a conference and a concert called Stop the Violence with Greg Jackson in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you live in the US, you probably heard of the stabbing that happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, that happened extremely close to where I live. Not only that, my family was recently affected by a shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina. My wife was about 40 feet from someone that was shot and killed. It's really shaking her up. What I'm saying is your community and your family matter much more to you and should matter much more to you than Magic the Gathering, video games, anime, and I'm gonna be real with you. 10 years ago, I put those things before my community. I stuck to my lonesome, I hung out, I did the things I like, I wasn't really involved. Those things are idols, and they're much scarier than these demons. That's what being a Christian means, putting others before yourself and not idols. So although the grass withers and the flower fades, the word of God stands forever. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in MagicCon Atlanta. God bless, my friends.